There are tens of thousands of islands located around the world, but arguably there is one island that nearly everyone in the planet is watching right now, and that is the island of Taiwan. Located just 160 kilometers from mainland China's coast, Taiwan was labeled the most dangerous place on earth last year by The Economist. But is living in Taiwan really that dangerous? Or is this simply just an exaggeration? While many believe that the United States and China could start World War III on the shores of Taiwan, what do Taiwanese people living in Taiwan feel about the future of their island? I have 4 pressing questions that need to be answered in today's video. Number 1, is Taiwan an independent country or is it part of China? Number 2, will China militarily invade Taiwan to force reunification? Number 3, will the United States military defend Taiwan? And finally, why is the United States so interested in Taiwan in the first place? But before we answer these pressing questions, give me a moment of your time to thank Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. I first learned about a VPN while doing business in China, and over the years, it has become an integral part of my online business. Because of the pandemic, my entire business has now shifted online, and I'm constantly on the road. When I'm at a local coffee shop like I am right now, I'm using public Wi-Fi. And it is imperative that I use a secure VPN to keep my data safe while I'm working. The team at Surfshark VPN has been a longtime sponsor of my work here on YouTube, and we're currently running an amazing promotion. If you use my discount code CYRUS at checkout, you're going to be able to receive 83% off the retail price of a VPN service. In addition, because you're a loyal subscriber of this channel, they're also going to throw in an additional 4 months of service for free. Now let's get back to the video and answer those pressing questions about Taiwan. Let's start with the first question. Is Taiwan an independent country or part of China? And to help us all better understand, let me give everyone a very short history lesson. For hundreds of years, Western countries have sought to rule China. The United States came close to being successful when they invested hundreds of millions of dollars into backing KMT leader Chiang Kai-shek. Chiang was an interesting man. He spoke fluent English, converted to Christianity, and with the help of America, could turn China into a democracy that could spread American influence throughout the entire Asian region. This, of course, was America's vision for China, but unfortunately, Chiang Kai-shek had poor military skills and wasted much of his American funding. He was eventually given the nickname General Cash My Check by Americans who were angry when he lost the Chinese Civil War to the more popular Mao Zedong, who established the People's Republic of China in 1949. This forced Chiang Kai-shek to leave mainland China and bring his KMT government to the island of Taiwan. What's important to note here is that while Chiang was against Mao and the communists, he was also against Taiwanese independence. Chiang was a firm believer in a unified China. In Chiang's mind, his KMT government not only ruled the island of Taiwan, but all of China. And this belief that there is only one China is the backbone of China's foreign policy. In addition, since the early 1970s, the United Nations, the United States, and seemingly every major country in the world has also come together and recognized the one China policy. However, this is where things get tricky, as the United States also likes to maintain a strong unofficial relationship with Taiwan. Last year, when President Biden said the U.S. has a commitment to defending Taiwan, the White House immediately corrected the president's misspoken words and stated there was no change in the United States recognizing the one China policy. But why is the island of Taiwan so important to China? Let's take a look at this from the Chinese perspective. Officially reuniting Taiwan with mainland China has been a dream of every Chinese leader ever since the KMT government retreated to the island some 70 years ago. In fact, the Chinese leader that came the closest to making this happen was Deng Xiaoping. Deng knew that he wouldn't have enough time to officially reunite China and Taiwan, so he actually focused his efforts somewhere else, Hong Kong. In 1997, the 99-year lease of Hong Kong to the British government would expire, and Deng began shifting his focus to the handover of Hong Kong. Deng Xiaoping accomplished a tremendous amount for China during his days as the de facto leader of the country, but arguably, his biggest accomplishment was reuniting Hong Kong back with mainland China. Last November, the Chinese government passed a referendum allowing Xi Jinping the ability to lead the future of China's government for seemingly as long as he wants. Xi Jinping has removed presidential term limits and in effect could rule indefinitely. Currently, President Xi is 68 years old and most likely has another 10 to 15 years of ruling the country. Now, this time frame is important to note, as many China watchers have speculated that similar to Deng Xiaoping with Hong Kong, Taiwan would be the crown jewel and cement Xi Jinping's legacy as China's leader if he is able to make this reunification happen. Now, earlier last year, China's president caused a tremendous amount of worry when he stated that reunification would happen and that China would use military force if necessary. I think realistically, the chances of China invading Taiwan are highly unlikely. And here are 3 reasons why. Don't forget, mainland Chinese look at Taiwanese people as their brothers. Therefore, if China were to invade Taiwan, this would be a civil war with brothers killing brothers. Don't forget, there are many families with members on both sides of the Taiwan Strait. In addition, there are nearly 500,000 Taiwanese living and working in mainland China today. The second reason is the economic devastation it would cause on the world economy and China's own economy. Remember, China's government's #1 mission right now is to grow the economy and provide a better life for its people. It's been doing that for the past 50 years, but China's economy has some big issues it's currently dealing with. COVID has slowed the economy. In addition, China's real estate market, which accounts for 29% of its GDP, is overvalued, with many construction companies like Evergrande facing default. In addition, China is facing an ever-growing aging population and one of the lowest birth rates in the last 70 years. China is not in a position to risk further financial damage. Finally, let's not forget that Xi Jinping has an especially close relationship with Taiwan. He served in the Fujian province for 17 years, from 1985 to 2002. And since Fujian is the closest mainland Chinese province to Taiwan, Xi focused most of his efforts in attracting investment from Taiwan to strengthen the private sector of the Fujian economy. In 2015, President Xi met with then Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou. This was significant as it marked the first ever meeting between leaders of both sides since the end of the Chinese Civil War in 1949. However, things have changed with the recent election of Green Party President Tsai Ing-wen. I reached out to a 30-year business executive in Taiwan for his thoughts on the matter, and this is what he said. The current government came into power by spreading fear of China with the support and help of propaganda of our US and Japanese friends. They won over a lot of votes from the youth who barely understand what China has achieved during the past 3 decades. These days, the Taiwanese government spends most of its time focusing on playing politics to try and secure a vote, while the well-being of people is less of a concern. The Green Party government has been ruling Taiwan for the past 6 years, and it has been promoting a very anti-China narrative. They have even succeeded to a large degree in changing the teaching in the local school system to eliminate the tie of people in Taiwan from mainland China. But does this represent the views of all Taiwanese people? I wanted to find out what Taiwanese people think of the potential conflict between Taiwan and mainland China. And I found this article from Taiwan's Commonwealth magazine that was published in January 2022. The statistics here give us an accurate insight into what the majority of Taiwanese people think. Again, this is a Taiwanese magazine asking Taiwanese people these questions. And here are the results. Nearly 64% of Taiwanese people are not worried about a war between Taiwan and China. That was 15.4 percentage points higher than in last year's survey, indicating that despite Western media publications like The Economist claiming Taiwan is the most dangerous place in the world, Taiwanese people are even less fearful than a year ago of the risk of war. In addition, another 58% of Taiwanese people felt that they don't see China using force to unify Taiwan. In other words, people in Taiwan are genuinely not concerned about the threat of Chinese military force in the short or long term, and the feeling was the same across all age groups. Interesting enough, the survey does indicate that nearly 60% of Taiwanese believe the US would send in troops to defend Taiwan, and over half trust the United States could protect Taiwan. However, having the United States military support is not guaranteed, and this is something Taiwanese people need to be clear about. Francis Fukuyama, a senior fellow at Stanford University, stated, "It appears that a lot of Taiwanese have basically decided there's no way we can defend ourselves from China. We'll have to rely on the Americans. That is a big, big mistake. I don't think there's any American consensus on the degree to which we ought to extend military support to Taiwan." As we close out this video, I want to share my thoughts on why Taiwan is so important to the United States. And at the end of the day, like most of our foreign policy decisions, it comes down to the money. Since 1979, the United States has sold more than $89 billion worth of military equipment to Taiwan. The business of war is extremely lucrative, and the United States is the most warlike nation in the world. Again, not a quote from me, but from our former president, Jimmy Carter. Unfortunately, the reality is that the United States military-industrial complex dictates the U.S. government budget. The U.S. Senate just passed military spending bill for the fiscal year of 2022, setting the budget at an astronomical $778 billion US dollars. When your government ends a 20-year war in Afghanistan but increases the military budget, this is a major red flag. Al Jazeera reporter Ali Harb goes on to share, "For the last 20 years, we heard that the terrorist threat justified an ever-expanding budget for the Pentagon. As the war in Afghanistan has ended and attention has shifted towards China, we're now hearing that that threat justifies it." The US government wants the world to believe that Taiwan is being threatened by mainland China and that all Taiwanese are desperately seeking formal independence. But again, that's not the reality. Generally speaking, Taiwanese people can be separated into two camps. People under the age of 40 tend to identify themselves as Taiwanese, are more supportive to Taiwanese independence, and have a favorable view of the United States. Those over the age of 40 tend to view themselves as both Chinese and Taiwanese and believe that China's national strength has surpassed that of the United States. What is the mainstream view of Taiwanese people? While the Green Party has been pushing the idea of formal independence, a large portion of Taiwanese still believe maintaining the status quo is the best option for their future. Even the younger generations of Taiwanese who do support the idea of independence still want to maintain peaceful relations with China. This is a viewpoint that has doubled in popularity over the past 20 years. Final question: will Taiwan eventually be reunited with China? I, of course, cannot give a concrete answer, but just offer my opinion. I believe that President Xi will continue to push the goal of reunification, but realistically, the only way it will happen is through a peaceful dialogue with Taiwan. This is a decision that the Taiwanese people and their elected government will need to figure out with China's government. However, since the Green Party took over the Taiwanese government 6 years ago, the number of countries which recognize Taiwan as an independent country has decreased from 21 to 14. More countries are choosing to work with China. This more aggressive anti-China narrative from Taiwan's current president is an extremist view and not a true representative of the majority, with well over 80% of Taiwanese wanting at least peaceful relations with China, and nearly half thinking that Taiwan should not be forced to pick sides between China and the United States. But what do you think? Will Taiwan officially be reunited with China, or is the status quo the best scenario for the future? Drop me a comment down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. Once again, I want to give a huge thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. If you're in the market for a VPN, I ask you to please give them a try, as doing so will help keep your data secure and also help grow this channel. Also, if you're interested in joining our team, please come check us out on Patreon. Patreon supporters get access to an exclusive insider podcast that I release each week only for our Patreon community. Everyone, my name is Cyrus Jansen. Thanks for taking time out of your day to spend it with me here on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.